Okay, welcome everyone to our hangout here with Summit Public Schools to discuss their Basecamp program. We're going to chat. We're live now, and people will be coming into the room over the next few minutes, and so we'll sort of fill a couple minutes here at the beginning while people join and get in the room. I should introduce myself first. We're going to chat. We're live now, and people will be coming into the room over the next few minutes, and so we'll sort of fill a couple minutes here at the beginning. I'll mute you guys for a second just to check our feedback. I can do all that stuff. All right, super. All right, so with us here today, I have Tyler Sussman. He is joining from Minnesota. Tyler is in the flannel, rocking the blue flannel. And we have Ron Delaney, who is, I'm guessing you are in California this morning, Ron. I'll unmute you so that you can join in, say hi. Hold on, let me make sure I know how to unmute you. Okay,
there we go. I got it. Yeah, I'm joining from California this morning.
All right, superb. Are you at like Summit HQ?
Yeah, bring an opportunity to be back. I was just on the road in Boise, Idaho, with one of our partners. District school out there, and then we have a Denver Public School partner as well. And so I got back in Saturday, and I'm happy to be back with Summit Schools for a few days before heading back out on the road to some more partners next week.
All right, awesome. And we might have one more person from Summit joining us here in a few minutes. And when he joins, we'll let you guys introduce him. I can see that we already have 5 or 6 viewers that are with us, that are live. That is great news. Feel free to jump into the room, everyone, and we can run up to about 10 video feeds live here in the room. And so you can jump in, be live with us on video, and ask your questions directly to them on video. If not, now we're up to 8 viewers. That's great. Folks coming in the room, join. For everyone that is listening, either join live and just participate with your video, or you can post comments either to this live discussion or to the YouTube page that's happening. So actually there's about 3 different ways to post comments, and I'll be tracking all of them. You can post it here on our video feed and directly, and I can watch the comments happening in the room. You can post to our Google Plus page. That is where already one person has posted some questions, and you can continue to post questions there. Or you can post to the live YouTube page that is running right now. So I'll also be watching the live YouTube page for any questions that pop up on that front. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to interact. Please do send questions into any one of those 3 channels. Those will be sort of the main content we want to cover today. We want to make sure it's all super relevant to your particular school context. All right, so the more questions, the better. And I can see another question's already come up on our Google Plus page. That is awesome. Good news. So people are figuring that out. Now, to get us started, Ron, can you introduce the person that's just joined?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. I'll let Mike introduce himself here and tell a little bit about who he is and what he does as part of this Summit Basecamp partnership.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Mike Seago. I'm a director of engineering here, and we build the personalized learning plan software. So I'm an employee at Facebook, and I have a team of engineers working to ensure that we work closely alongside the team at Summit as well as our Basecamp schools to understand how to make this software work better and better in a wide variety of different schools and for different teachers.
All right, superb. All right, superb. Good to know you and good to be able to ask some back-end questions. All right, so we're getting a little feedback again. I'm going to mute. I'll manage the mutes in and out, okay, guys? All right, so to get us started then, we all, just the context for all the viewers that are in the room, we're up to about 13 viewers, guys, so that is good news. We invited Summit to come and speak to our Next Gen event in November here in 2015. They came out, they spoke, talked about the personalized learning platform, the Basecamp program. I think we had maybe, an hour and a half, 2 hours or something like that of content, but we got a lot of follow-up questions and a lot of people asking more to learn more about Summit, and so we thought, hey, let's take this opportunity and do a follow-up hangout. So that is sort of why we are here today. So for those Next Gen members out there, they already have some background in Basecamp, but I know that several of the districts that were interested in potentially applying to the Basecamp program were going to share more to other people in their district. And so I know some of those folks had planned to watch today, and certainly the follow-up video that'll be posted, they'll probably be watching some of that. So can we just have you guys start off by giving a little overview of the Basecamp program for some of those that are sort of new to it? And Ron, or I'll start with you, Ron, and then we can jump over to Tyler if we need to. So unmute Ron and take it away.
Thanks, Justin. The brief overview here, the way we got into the personalized learning is over a decade ago, Summit was a charter school and is a charter school out in California. We got the notion of this idea that every student should have an individualized education plan or a personalized learning plan, that no student's experience should be the same as every other student's experience. And so over a decade ago, that looked like making a plan on a sheet of paper that would often end up in a filing cabinet that we would reference a couple times a year. And over time, we've grown to incorporate spreadsheets and eventually having the tool that we have today in partnership with Facebook. And Mike helps us with that tool and making sure that it's not only meeting the needs of Summit, but the needs of all of our partner schools. And that's really where Summit Basecamp comes in. I'll do a quick presentation, if that's okay, Justin?
Yeah, sure.
I'll only talk for a couple minutes here and kind of share a brief overview of the benefits of what the Basecamp program is. So Summit Basecamp, when you join Summit Basecamp, you become part of a national network, and you gain a few wonderful opportunities as a part of that network. One of those is that tool. Here we go, sorry. One of those is the personalized learning platform, the tool that Mike's here helping to support on and helping to grow. We've found that having a tool that makes consistent experience across all of the subjects, that is accessible by students, by parents, by district personnel, by schools, really allows for schools that want to move into a personalized learning direction to do so. This platform is absolutely free to any partner. There's no cost involved in the partnership, and all students and teachers are able to access it. Another opportunity that comes with the partnership is the ability to access all of the curriculum that Summit has been creating over the past few years. So for a few years, Summit was creating this curriculum on its own. Every summer, all of the teachers would get together and iterate on the curriculum and improve it. And then we're really fortunate now to be in a position where all of our partner schools are using this curriculum to a degree, and we can incorporate the improvements and edits that all of those schools are doing as well. So we have 19 partners right now, many of whom are using the curriculum and helping us support it. Some schools, and you can choose to do this if you want, you can use the curriculum as it is, or if there are needs that you need to meet, that you want to modify the course in any way, you also have the ability to do that. As part of the partnership, everyone comes out to California for training and the opportunity to learn what personalized learning is, not only how the tool can support that, and so there's a piece of technological literacy and learning there, but also the opportunity to figure out how as a team you can work to support the needs of your students. And we give on-site support as well throughout the year. So there's an opportunity for schools to get mentorship and support, not only from Basecamp or from the folks here who are involved in it, but then also through a nationwide community of practice. So the current schools, as you can see, are all over the country, and we have a bunch of geographic hubs that are growing as well, and we're working really hard to not only provide support for all our schools, but then also to see schools support one another as they pick up and do personalized learning in their classroom. So those 5 elements is options to use the tool, or the choice to use the tool to further personalized learning in your context, access to curriculum, the professional development in the summer, and then ongoing as well throughout the year, and then being part of the national movement or community of practice that's happening. That's a brief overview. I don't want to go too long, Justin, knowing that a lot of the people who are part of the call are likely to know a bit more than that. So if there are questions, I'm happy to go from there. But those are some of the basic benefits of becoming part of Summit Basecamp and really moving in a personalized learning direction with us.
Okay, superb. Thanks for giving us that short overview. And obviously you could go into detail much deeper. I do know the Vimeo videos that you have posted. I've watched both of them. Maybe you've even posted more since. But going in detail on the PLP itself and exactly what's happening there was super helpful for me. So we can post those links over on our Google Plus page to those Vimeos to dive really deep. Okay, so that is good news. We do have quite a few questions already pouring in, so that is good news. Tyler or Mike, is there anything you want to say before we start to dive into some questions? Good to go? All right, super. So just some basics for everyone that's listening to help us set up our questions. To apply to be a Summit Basecamp school, there's a form to fill out on the summitbasecamp.org, I think, website. You fill out that form, that starts a process of interactions. There's multiple sort of phases to the application, it seems like, and so phase one is just like giving them all of your information and getting started. We have in Kentucky already a couple of districts that have submitted a phase one application, and so we have some questions emerging from that group already. Let me start with the biggest picture question, which is we have an individual middle school here in Kentucky that wants to participate, but they have some questions from the district office level about Summit as a whole and your model and the impact that the Summit model, that personalized model, is having on kids, particularly from an achievement standpoint. I mean, that's a question we're always going to get from high-level administrators. So what can you tell us about like the performance of students in these personalized models and what a higher-level administrator should expect when a school joins?
Hi, Justin. I'm going to take that one. For those of you that haven't heard me, my name is Tyler. I'm the Basecamp program. In terms of alignment and assessment, the program is really assessed on two factors. One is cognitive skills, and the other one is content standards. Both align back to Common Core state standards. So really what we've done is taken the higher order thinking skills from the Common Core standards and created a rubric that is 8 different discrete areas. It maps out 36 discrete cognitive skills and helps students understand their growth in those cognitive skills from a 6th grade level up through college readiness and even onto ready to professionally apply the skills. That creates about 2/3 of a student's score in these courses. The other third comes out of content. So taking the content, sort of the no-do skills or the no-do content knowledge from the Common Core standards and mapping them out to discrete content sections that we call focus areas over the course of a course. And together those two things are combined to create the assessment standard. So far, students who have been working through this have matched or exceeded other students in their school in terms of growth, as demonstrated by both of those areas.
Okay, talk a little bit more about the exceeded. Obviously, your focus, you've been in California for now many years, started in Washington just in the last year or two. Do you all do the standardized assessments that other schools in California are doing? And is that where students are showing that they're matching or outperforming? Or tell me more about like how you're making that judgment that they're doing equal or better than.
Absolutely. So we, in California at Summit, we take the SBAC and all of the other tests that schools across the state take. When I speak to that matching or exceeding, though, I'm really thinking about the NWEA MAP test. So thinking about rate of growth on the MAP test compared to the schools themselves prior to the model and compared to the average growth in schools within the districts where they're matched.
Yeah, but on the state assessments, you're doing okay. I mean, it's not that I personally love this question, but the question is coming from, you know, the district level folks who really, they have to be responsive to the state tests. And so on those California state tests, since you have a quite long history now in California, doing okay?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that the tests in California, the SBAC was only really applied statewide last year, so we have 1 year of SBAC in California. Over the course of the last 10 years, Summit has always done very well on state tests. For our 1 year of data, we did well. We will be able to map out growth on that test for individual students over the course of subsequent years as the students are exposed to that test again and again and again.
Okay, and so I have a follow-up now from our Google Plus page, which is good news. Getting us back to the map, since that is sort of where you guys are really honing in on that data. How often do students take the map inside of the Basecamp program? And do districts need to be planning to take the map more often than they may presently be doing? And if that is the case, it might come with some costs. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the Basecamp partner schools and Summit ourselves, we take the map 3 times throughout the course of the year. It's a fall, winter, and spring test. It's included within the traditional NWEA map packaging, so there shouldn't be a price increase from a single use up to those 3. And we use those to really to benchmark and see how students are doing when they start the course of the year, how they're progressing through the year, and overall growth by the end of the year for the spring test.
Okay, superb. All right, thanks for that. Anything else, Ron or Mike, that you all feel the need to talk about when it comes to sort of the big picture assessment pieces?
You know, I just want to add here that we deeply believe and value statewide tests and standardized tests. Academic achievement is incredibly, incredibly important, and we are driving towards that. I also want to call out that personalized learning is about helping your students gain a lot of soft skills as well that are tougher to measure. The ability to direct one's own learning, the ability to be prepared for college. When we started moving in a personalized learning direction at Summit, the reason was because a lot of our students 99% of our students were going to college, getting into a 4-year college, but half were finishing college. And while students have the academic preparation, I think there's a really deep, important piece that we need to not only give them the academic preparation, but we need to support students in other ways. And so we're meeting standardized testing results, but we're not just driving solely towards those standardized testing results. We spend a lot of time working, helping our students develop the skills so that when we're not there for them, when they go off to college, that they're ready with skills like grit and perseverance, the ability to create a plan and execute on it, to know what's appropriate, the size of their goal. And so I think I just wanted to add in as well that there are a lot of pieces that are super important that we want to develop in students that are not always perfectly tied to standardized tests, but we deeply value those as well and are driving towards those at the same time.
All right, superb. Thanks for dealing with those questions. It is certainly just something that is vitally important as districts consider their steps moving forward, and so we know it's on the agenda for at least one district in Kentucky that's already applied, and so it's good for us to tackle that. All right, let's go in a whole new direction now. I want to, before we take that new direction, just remind everyone that is watching, and we got 20-some viewers right now, which is great. Go ahead and post comments. We already have a pretty growing list of questions over on our Google Plus page. That seems to be our comment location of choice. So if you can go to our Google Plus page for you next-gen listeners out there that were invited, just post your comment. Abby, Amy, Karen, thanks for all the comments that you guys are already putting in. So let's now jump into some of those. And now I want to take us in a direction of sort of who can participate. And we already have one question on the table that I've let Ron and Tyler know, and I'm going to get to that one in a minute. But we have a few questions I want to do leading up to that. The first question is we're getting from the elementary level, and just reiterating, what is the status of a potential elementary partner? Is that something you're still planning to do or consider within the next year?
So with the current Basecamp program that we're offering for 2016-2017, we are really looking for teams that are grades 6 through 10. It's what the platform was originally designed around, and that is what creates an experience where I think there's an important difference in designing the right experience and the software to support that experience when you are talking about the difference from learning to read at the elementary level to reading to learn at the middle and high school level. And Summit started as a high school, extended to become a middle school, and we're continuing to see how this platform can work for different grade levels. We have some partners this year at the 5th grade level, and they're seeing positive results, and we're working to build out our curriculum offering, which currently is grades 6 through 12, but through these partnerships with Milpitas and Lindsay and other elementary schools are going to be able to, in future years, 2017, 2018, have a curriculum offering for 5th grade and 4th grade. And around that same time, in the 2017-2018 school year, we'll be looking at how many of the different elements of the platform can be packaged in a way that are going to be able to support lower elementary grade levels as well, but it's not the program that we're offering for this 2016-2017 school year yet.
Okay, super. Thanks. So it looks like you, for this next year, probably are not interested yet in the elementary partners as you all start to work to bring it down, and then you're going to sort of work backwards down 5th grade, 4th grade, sort of building out the content into the PLP model. So, okay, good answer. So even in the near term, elementary schools can be watching for the next cycle to maybe have a 5th grade team coming up in that sort of the following year, not this application year, but the next year. All right, so, okay, go ahead, Juan.
The one thing that I would add to that is as we're working towards that goal, we are looking for schools to partner and collaborate with in order to think through like what needs to be done to support those elementary school levels. It won't be a launch of the Basecamp program, but it will be a partnership to understand what needs the elementary level has, what we need to build into our program to support them, how to collaborate in order to build out the best curriculum possible, all of those pieces over the course of the next year.
Okay, superb. The comments are pouring in now, which is great news. So now we have the alternate challenge, which is trying to get to them all. So that's excellent. So let's try to click through a couple then. Talk a little bit about special needs in the PLP. That's certainly obviously something we're all dealing with. Summit as a charter, I'm sure you all are still getting special needs students. Can you talk a little bit about how that works, what that means?
Sure. I mean, thinking through what special education is individualized education for every student, traditionally through the creation of IEPs. In essence, personalized learning at school-wide level is creating those plans for every student. We have a large population of special education students both at Summit schools and throughout Basecamp schools. Part of this process is sitting down with those students, as with every other student, in order to assess individual needs and create the plan that they need in order to have those needs fulfilled, and would include all of the traditional elements of the special education process.
Yeah, I think when we were hanging out together at the basketball game, I think you mostly have your special needs students just participating in the regular program. That was my understanding. There's probably, in general, less sort of pull-out that's happening at Summit School using this PLP model. Is that right?
Yeah, to a certain extent, absolutely. Because learning within classrooms looks different from a traditional classroom and is taking the form of lots of small group interactions, lots of individual assignments that teams are collaborating around, it is already a very supportive structure for all students. We do still have pull-out structures going on. Some Basecamp schools are push-in, some are pull-out. All have accommodated their own SPED structures within the PLP, and I think there is definitely room in the program for whatever program that you have.
And those students could take more than a year to get through a year's worth of PLP content. Would that be, is that sort of, are we envisioning that right on how quickly they're mastering all of the content that's in the PLP on a given year?
So the curriculum in the P is backwards planned from 12th grade down to 6th grade at this point. It is always our goal that students are able to work through at a pace that will allow them to complete the curriculum by the time they're done in 12th grade. depending on as a need by need basis for our special education students. Some students have created alternate plans in order to match their needs. As often as possible, we like to keep all of our students on that same backwards plan schedule so that they've mastered all of the necessary material by the time they graduate.
All right, superb. Thanks, Tyler. So just a follow-up question that is around then the pacing. So there is one of the things that's unique about the Summit program is this pacing line that sort of shows how a student is progressing or where the expectation for where they should be within the year's worth of content. We have a question in the chat around how that pacing line is generated. Can you all speak to that at all?
Yes. So the idea is that over the course of the year, the student will have a set of content that they are expected to master. And this is broken down into two separate areas. One is called power focus areas, and these are really the critical concepts that if a student doesn't master these, they won't be able to have the fundamental background knowledge to complete their project successfully, and they won't be able to proceed to the next year's worth of content. There's also a set of content called additional focus areas. And these are really a deeper dive into the content knowledge of that course, but aren't going to be as necessarily fundamental to you being able to proceed to the next year. So when you look at the PLP's dashboard, these two areas are broken down with the power focus areas on top and the additional focus areas on bottom. The power focus areas contribute a more significant portion of the student's grade, and the additional focus areas can be thought of as, in some ways, extra credit, a way to improve your grade. So when you see the line, this is showing over the course of the year where you would need to be expected to be on pace to complete all of your power focus areas by the end of the year. So students can use this as a subtle guide. It's by no means a hard deadline or something that should drive all of the students' actions. They have the choice of what things make more sense for them to work on right now, either because it is aligned with projects they're working on, aligned with their interests, or because they are behind and need some remediation, or because they are ready to move ahead and there's something that's more interesting or exciting to them. So we don't want to have too strong of a structure that's really driving what the student is doing each day, but allow for that flexibility for it to be more personalized.
Okay, superb. Quick sort of related question then. When a student, we have a potential 6th grade team that wants to apply, some of the students will be coming in sort of behind grade level, coming into 6th grade. Would you suggest that they do additional content before starting the PLP? For a kid that is behind, how do you compensate for that at all as a Summit school?
Yeah. So as a former 6th grade teacher and someone who opened a 6th grade school, we definitely had students who came in at high school level reading ability, or 2nd and 3rd grade, sometimes below reading ability. And the same was true for math. And so in terms of compensating, there's a few strategies that we've seen across Basecamp schools and that we've implemented at Summit. One of those is making certain that the content is accessible for whatever reading level students come in at. So if students are reading to learn, as Mike said earlier, we want to make sure that students are able to access the content at a level where the resources are meeting their literacy ability. Another opportunity that is fantastic within the PLP, and I think of personalized learning in general, is that students are able to spend more time on those areas that are more difficult for them. And so another opportunity that we use at Summit is making certain that students are allocating their time in ways that allow them to focus on the areas that they have the greatest weaknesses or that they need the most support. Mentors in the Summit context work a lot with students one-to-one to create plans with their family members and with their teachers to make certain that they're addressing the needs that they have and they're spending extra time to catch up in those areas. We also have access to curriculum in many cases that are below the current grade level. So something as simple as, say, if you can't access 6th grade math, bringing in something like Khan Academy or 5th grade playlists to make certain that that student can address the gaps and we can identify those gaps. Usually we can identify them through NWEA map testing and make sure that we're working there. So I think there's a host of different strategies that we're able to use for students who are below grade level. And those strategies I think are important too to mention in terms of students who go above grade level and beyond. So as a 6th grade teacher, halfway through the year, I had students who were still working on getting their reading abilities up. But at the same time, I had students who were ready for 8th grade or 9th grade math, and making certain that as a school, we weren't holding students back, but we weren't preventing them from learning either, is definitely what we're striving to do at Summit and what our Basecamp partners are striving to do.
Okay, superb. So then just, again, another follow-up. I'm sorry, they're coming at you, these questions are coming at you rapid fire. People are continuing to post on our Google Plus discussion page. That is excellent. If you want to keep adding questions there, I'll keep trying to work them into the conversation. So the next question, we had a couple questions in the chat that developed around modifying the PLP for individual state standards. So here in Kentucky, for instance, how we map out our science level standards are a little bit different. And so you all running the PLP as a platform, how modifiable is that to meet sort of individual curricular mandates?
So the curriculum that's housed in the PLP, built out by Summit teachers over the course of the last few years, now with the addition of some of our Basecamp partner schools, can be used as is, modified to fit the needs of a school, or replaced entirely. Teachers have the ability to, in the modification piece, change any elements of a project, change any elements of a focus area, including both the resources provided and the assessment questions. Or, as I said, they can be created entirely to fit the needs of the school. So if there was a science standard that was not assessed, a teacher can go in, define a set of objectives for students, create an assessment to measure those objectives, and provide resources for students to work through that material.
So potentially a lot of modification that can happen at the school level. How can you talk a little bit about how an individual can do that modification, like how much of the back end, or how does it work from a back end perspective, from a teacher or local leader perspective about modifying the playlist?
Mm-hmm. So in the software, whether you are a teacher, school leader, or a curriculum manager at your school, you will have access to the administrative side of the PLP that allows you to view and edit any part of the curriculum. So when setting up your course, you go through a series of options that allow you to choose, am I going to start with a blank slate, or am I going to take one of the Summit courses as the foundation to build on? So let's say you select a Summit biology course, then you will have that set of projects and that set of focus areas, but as you're looking through the content, if you see there's particular standards that aren't covered, or there are things that are covered but aren't applicable to your state, you can piecemeal choose to add or remove or modify any of these. So it's a very flexible platform. We've been working to make this as self-service and easy to use as possible, and anything that comes up as a question or challenge is something that our team, as well as the mentor team, will be able to continue to support throughout the year.
All right, superb. And then we can sort of check another question that has emerged. Two people actually asked around the PLP itself. How much access can a person have that's not a Summit Basecamp school? So I know that right now you already have live on the Summit Basecamp site access to sort of the base PLP and seeing the content and how all that's broken up. But you can't really see sort of the back end and just what you talked about, like how a teacher can do that modification process. Can you talk a little bit about your plans to sort of share more of the back end? Is there like a demo user that somebody can check out before choosing to go towards Summit Basecamp?
We recently launched a demo functionality, and if you go to the Summit Basecamp website or on the PLP website itself, and you sign up and request demo access, we're going to be providing demo codes that people can use to log in. We are just rolling this out right now, so you would be one of the first set of users that would be able to check this out and navigate the PLP. So if you do end up requesting a demo account, we provide you access. We'd love to hear what your experience is, what your thoughts are as you're going through it, and anything that comes up as a question or something you're confused about.
Good. That's great news. We do have some folks that are very interested in that kind of stuff within our NextGen network here in Kentucky. So Jerry, Buddy, I know you guys are listening. There you go. Demo access to the back end. I think they would love to see and play. And while we're just in this space, we had sort of one extra question around Facebook and privacy, which is probably a bit of a delicate question. I think it's sort of at the forefront probably because this last week Google was in the news around privacy concerns. So can you talk a little bit about any structures that assure student privacy within the PLP, and whether or not Facebook, the company, is going to have access to the back end?
So Facebook, the company, definitely does not have access to any private student data. Only certain employees, so members of my team, who have signed on with all of the same agreements that any staff member at Summit has signed on, would be able to access the data, and only for the very restricted uses of people requesting help from us, or us needing to investigate and resolve issues that would improve the software and improve the experience. And more generally, as a company, because Facebook is helping to manage the data of people around the world, we have had to continually improve our privacy practices, and our team has recently undergone a rigorous training from our legal team, ensuring that we understand all of the different state and federal laws and policies that apply to working in education, things from FERPA and COPPA, as well as the additional pledges that we've signed onto through the Future of Privacy Forum. So this is something that we know is really important. Personalized learning will only work if people really trust the software and the teams that are making it. So we want to ensure that we are doing everything we can to build and continue to earn that trust.
Okay, superb. Thanks for that. You know, you're just going to get questions in that space. Just because of the historical stuff that is coming to the table. We do have already in the comment a few folks that are thanking you for the demo access, that are excited about demo access. So that is good news for everyone that's wanting to check that out. Just real fast on tech, are there specific tech recommendations at the student level to use the PLP? Is there like minimally the school needs to be a one-to-one school, and if so, what device? Are you making any recommendations there?
So any one-to-one device with a keyboard would work reasonably well. Our default configuration that is used at the Summit schools, which is also used at many of the Basecamp schools, is that every student has a Chromebook laptop. And we found that that works really well from being able to start up quickly and access everything that students need. But any laptop device or any tablet with a keyboard, one thing that is generally a better browser to use is Chrome, as we do all of our development in Chrome. And there may be issues that come up if you use a browser that is not Chrome that might take a little bit longer to resolve. Then the other important factor is to have sufficient bandwidth at your school. So 100 megabits per second is the recommendation from the Future Ready groups, and that is sufficient for being able to have all of your students using and accessing the PLP within your classroom. I think that this is an area that we want to continue to support more and more different environments and contexts. So if this comes up as an issue where your school has something that's working really well for you but doesn't sound like it would work with the PLP yet, we want to understand that.
All right, super. And one last question on sort of the technical side. Sorry to hit you with a series of these, but they're popping in the chat. We just have sort of a few minutes left, so get those last questions into our Google Plus page if you want to throw one more question at it. We're going to turn in a second our attention to sort of the big picture questions around the team, around cost, around how many schools you're looking for next year. We'll get to those in one second. One last question, though, sort of about the platform. Is it extensible in terms of communicating with other platforms? For instance, can you pull in a learner profile from an Infinite Campus or a student information system kind of platform? Like, is there any interoperability between those yet at all?
So the main way that you pull your student data into the PLP is through Clever. And Clever is a data communication layer on top of many different student information systems and applications. So in the initial setup of the PLP, when we need to know who all of your students are and what are your courses, what courses are your students rostered into, that integration is going to happen between your student information system and the PLP through Clever. And at the end of the year, when you are ready to take all of the work that students have completed in the PLP and then bring those grades back into your student information system, we're going to allow you to be able to export those in a format that can be imported easily. That's the main point of interoperability, and if there are other integrations that folks are really interested in, it's another one of those things where we want to understand and learn what will make this work for your context.
Yeah, Clever is a tool that we use this year at STEAM Academy in Lexington to communicate between our learning management system and our student information system, and it worked pretty well. It took a while to get, I mean, it was our first time trying to use Clever, and so trying to work between Infinite Campus and Canvas, which is our LMS. But we eventually did get it, and the two did speak to each other. So yeah, Clever is a nice tool because it's already proven to work with Infinite Campus, at least in our context, which is good news. Here in Kentucky, we are an Infinite Campus state. Every school in the state uses Infinite Campus as their student information system, so that's a huge benefit to us. All right, one more question. I'm sorry before we get back to those big picture ones, but it's now hit a couple of times in the chat, and so it's worth just talking about for a second around the AP courses that are sort of near the end of the Summit program. So are all students required to take the AP courses in their senior year to get us started? And then I have one more question on AP that I'll find way back in our chat somewhere. So can we start with that one, and I'll find that other short question?
Sure. In Summit's curriculum, all of our students go through AP courses. A student will take at least 6 AP courses by the end of their experience as a Summit student. We encourage students to take as many of the AP tests as they are ready for. We ask that all students take at least one test. Many of our students take the full range based on the AP classes, and I think because we believe deeply that all students can master material at that level as long as they're adequately supported, we've structured our program really around pushing them to the highest level and then making sure they have the support that they need in order to be successful there.
All right, and then the current build within the PLP for like the junior senior year, those builds are aligned to the AP curriculum. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. So you already have those relationships between the courses and AP in place that an AP teacher can utilize. If a district is not AP, is it still possible to work with you all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this falls into the traditional range of a teacher or a school is able to take our curriculum as a starting place and then make the modifications or changes that they feel are necessary for their context. In this case, most of our 11th and 12th grade courses are AP courses, which we require all of our students to go through. If a school felt strongly about changing that requirement for their site implementation, they could take those courses and modify them to remove some of the AP challenges. I think our initial recommendation for all schools would be to think through how to push students into those AP courses and help students have the level of support that they need in order to find success there.
Okay, and just one more that just popped from Sarah on which AP courses are currently, which AP courses would you require?
So at Summit, let me think through all of them. So it's AP US History, AP Government for History, AP English Literature for 11th and 12th grade, double, AP Chemistry, AP Environmental Science for Science, AP Statistics, and AP Calculus for Math.
Okay. All right, superb. So let's then shift for the remaining time, which is maybe about 10 more minutes, to the big picture questions on Basecamp again. Sort of getting back now to the big picture. We have a question from a team here in Kentucky that is really interested in who exactly can participate in the Basecamp program. You all have structured it to do grade level teams and to really focus on like a grade level swath of teachers. But the question is specifically around, can additional leaders participate? Can you talk a little bit about the constitution of the teams?
Sure. So the way we found schools to be most successful in our work is when a student has a consistent experience across their entire grade level. So a student going from one core class to the next core class and having that consistent experience has really helped make the experience great for students. And so the necessary adults to support that type of change are certainly the teachers at that grade level, and then the school leaders that are there to support them. And so in many cases we have personnel from the district all the way down to instructional leads and the principal. And then, of course, you have the teacher layer, and you also have aides that go into classrooms often who are working. And so I think the formal definition of the team that's represented on the website is talking a lot about a core group of teachers and an instructional leader that can be there to support those teachers. But when we do think about the overall notion of what makes a successful transition to personalized learning, I do want to say that the team is really far bigger, and any sort of school level leader who's interested in devoting themselves to personalized learning and supporting that team should definitely be involved, and we would be thrilled to support not only at the grade level team teacher level and the instructional lead, but beyond that as well.
All right, so then a follow-up, we have both one of our smallest districts in Kentucky and one of our largest districts in Kentucky both asking the same question around, can a whole school apply, or are you really just focused on one single grade?
Yeah, so we would love applications from anyone who's interested. We would love to get applications from individual grade level teams. I think it's really, really important to think about a grade level team being bought in, and I think it's harder to assess readiness if an entire school applies at once. So if you have a school that's 6, 7, and 8, and all of those grade level teams are bought in, sending in separate applications, making certain that everyone shows that they're invested in this transition and how we can support them is the way we tend to think about it. So we would be thrilled to have applications from any grade level team that's ready to do this type of move. And if that means all of the grade level teams at your school site want to apply, we would love to see those applications come in.
Okay, so I get what you're saying, just to try to make sure that we understand and our viewers understand. You would want an application sort of coming from each grade level. So if it's a 9 to 12, you'd sort of want 4 applications for the 9, the 10, the 11, and the 12. Is that what you're thinking, Ron?
That's correct. I think it's just really important to think about the readiness of your school at that grade level team level. And so rather than a whole school application, getting those teachers to come into a room together and apply for this process is what makes most sense for us. And we think there's a lot of value through the application process for those teams to be able to articulate why they want to be involved in this type of transition and what's really valuable.
Right. And then there's no reason, especially for a small district like Paris that has already started the application process, that you can't do a single grade level team, and since there's so much crossover at that grade level, immediately take the learning that's happening at maybe the 10th grade level team and apply it both down to the 9 and up to the 11 kind of thing. That can happen within a district, no problem, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we're working with a lot of schools where, we had one grade level team come out, and already at this point in the year, the grade level above and below them are incorporating elements of personalized learning into their classrooms as part of a transition, whether that's mentoring students one-to-one or using the cognitive skills rubric or moving in a project-based learning direction. And in almost all of those cases, those teams have already planned to apply or have applied so that they can be using the personalized learning platform next year. And so that's kind of the way we've seen a lot of the change happen, is there'll be a core team at the school that has applied and really invested. But within a few months' time, you start to see the transition to the grade level teams, both above and below.
Okay, superb. And so how many districts are you all looking at potentially for next year? That's a question we have in our discussion. And then also, the similar kind of question, can probably answer them both at once. If a district fills out and sort of meets the basic criteria for an application, does that mean they're in? Talk to us about what the kind of acceptance process looks like.
Mm-hmm. So there's definitely no hard and fast number of how many folks we're looking for. We really want to make this available to more and more people, and so we are looking for as many qualified applicants as are interested in applying, and we really want to help support folks. And I think that in terms of what the selection process is going to look like, you'll see that in the details of the application, many of the questions are around the program requirements, and that sounds like kind of like it's this do you meet this requirements kind of really strict process, but really this is meant to be an educational process where through reading and understanding all of the materials in the application, you are learning and mentally preparing for what it would be like to actually incorporate this into your schools. And that's why the application has so many questions, and in every one of these questions around requirements, these are really meant to help determine what your level of readiness is, and if you are not yet confident that you are at the level of readiness that you would need to be, what are the questions in your mind or potential concerns that could come up, and this creates a conversation. So we look forward to this being a process where applications come in throughout this month and are that the beginning of the following months, us getting in touch with you, following up on anything that looks like it's going to be an area where you may need a bit more help, and hopefully by mid-March we will have built out the entire cohort. So just to reiterate, the first step in the application is to fill out what is phase 1 on the website right now, and to do that during December this month. And then throughout January and February, there will be some additional back and forth questions, and then the full selection of the cohort is going to be built out in March with as many qualified applicants as we're able to find.
All right, superb. Thanks for the answer. Sounds like you're going for a rigorous application approach to really hone in on which are the districts that are ready right now. So districts here in Kentucky that are listening and paying attention, sounds to me like, don't expect the application process to sort of be simple. Like, you're going to need to dedicate some time and dedicate a lot of thought to that process. So that's fine. Okay, last sort of questions in around cost and sustainability. First off, talk to us about costs, and I know that a lot of costs are sort of being compensated by the foundation support that Summit is receiving, but sort of what are the costs to an individual school district?
So the things that are provided as part of the program, Ron went through earlier, the software, the curriculum, the mentorship support, the summer training, and the ongoing community of practice. All of that is offered at no cost. So we definitely want this to cost to not be something that would block you from being able to participate in the program. And if any of the costs, whether that is coming out for the training or being able to find the time for putting together some of these materials, are things that would prevent you from being able to participate in the program, we want to understand that better and see if there are ways that we can help support you. One thing is that is relatively simple is covering the cost of that travel. Another thing is if there are potentially regional funders that would help support any costs, whether that is bringing one-to-one devices to your school. That's a conversation that we can hope to help with. But really the goal here is that this is a important change that we want to be able to support, and we don't want costs to be a blocker, but we also want to understand if you do see costs that would result from making this change as something that could prevent you, please raise those issues to us so that we can be more aware of what would make this a challenge in different environments and contexts.
All right, super. So then maybe I'll just ask maybe a quick follow-up then to Tyler. Tyler, I think you're out at one of the Basecamp schools right now in Minnesota. So you're sort of seeing this implementation happen. From the cost standpoint, there's not a real cost to access the Summit and the PLP and sort of that training that you all are providing. But making the changes necessary in the learning environment probably comes with some costs, maybe even personnel costs. You might have to shift like how you're allocating your teachers in order to meet this type of a model. Are you seeing any of that so far in the schools that are at least half a year in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the adoption of the personalized learning model, depending on how similar to or different from your existing school model, all of the questions that would normally come up when a school drastically shifts what is going on come up here too. Staffing comes up. I think one of the current Basecamp schools hired one additional staff member due to needs that they saw based on the program. Most of the schools have fit within their existing staffing structure. I think it changes more than anything that would cost. It's just how you're spending your days. So how you're spending your PD days as a team, depending on what other district requirements you have, depending on what other things you have going on. More of them might be aimed to developing and supporting this model in your school sites. If your school wanted, in the case of the science curriculum, for example, if a lot of science curriculum needed to be designed, I think a school would want to think about how to make sure that the teachers had the time necessary in order to build that out prior to the start of the school year. But for the most part, as I said, schools have been able to fit this within current budgets and without drastically changing their funding for the year.
All right, and then just the very last question for you, Tyler, since you're there at a school that's running Basecamp this year, what does next year look like for that school that you're at? Does the same grade level team stay with Summit, or do you expand grade levels at that school? What does next year look like?
So the school that I'm at in Minneapolis is an example of a school that was working with us prior to the Basecamp program. They had been trying to launch a lot of the elements of this model without any of the tools or resources that we're currently providing. So by the time we launched our program this year, they were an example of a school that applied with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and launched all 3 grades that first year. This school is launching a new high school next year as a 9th grade cohort, and they will be launching their 9th grade cohort in the Basecamp program as well.
Okay. So it's possible to expand beyond that initial grade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the expanding is the norm based on what we're seeing from current partner schools, especially as students are going to their different classes and talking about how they're really enjoying the education they're receiving and understanding, just being able to communicate more deeply their knowledge of what's going on in classes and how they're progressing through their coursework. This school site, as it launches its second one and expands into that into the 9th grade with the program as well, is really thinking through how to design the entire new high school around this model.
Okay. Guys, wow, we took on a ton of questions, and thanks to all the viewers that are still with us for submitting all those questions to the Google Plus page. We had tons of content. I was flying through it, so I hope you all stayed with us and managed to process it all. The good news is this is all going to be recorded and available at this exact same YouTube page link as a recording, and you can go back and watch the recording and share the recording with other team members in your school district as you all think about submitting your applications. One important note is if you do want to get into the application cycle for this year, the applications are due December 18th, so very soon. Keep in mind that that is just phase 1 of the application, and phase 1 is not super intense. That is just to open up and give you access to phase 2 of the application, which is probably a little bit more intense, but at least that gets you in the discussion for potentially the phase 2 component. So if you are interested in Summit, you need to act pretty quickly and get your materials in for the beginning of the application very, very soon. Those materials can be accessed at summitbasecamp.org, and there's all the information that you need at that site about how to begin the application process and even starting to fill out the forms on that site. Is there anything else, Ron, Tyler, or Mike, that you want to share with districts or say to districts before we sign off?
You know, I would just thank you, Justin, for the opportunity to ask some questions, and to all the viewers out there. It's wonderful to get to connect with schools. We look forward to continuing the conversation, whether through the website. If you connect with us there and leave an email, we would be happy to follow up with you with whatever needs you have. And I would just say that as you're thinking about the transition and thinking about personalized learning, this is an awesome opportunity. I know a lot of schools are moving in that direction already, and we look forward to supporting you if you want to move in personalized learning in the direction and the way that we have access and the platform here. So we're excited to meet more schools. We've been really fortunate to learn from 19 amazing schools this year through Cohort 1, and we're looking forward to learning from many more great schools this next year, and hopefully a number of whom will be located in Kentucky.
Righto. Thank you so much, Ron and Tyler and Mike, for spending an hour with us. And I'm excited to see if we have some Summit Basecamp schools here in Kentucky next year. Sort of a fun process we're going through together. So thanks, and maybe we'll be chatting more over the next couple of years. So thanks all. Thanks, viewers, and remember to share this within your districts. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.